Sometimes the smallest hearts carry the heaviest battles. In a quiet house on the edge of town, a tiny baby fought a silent war against a world he couldn't even reach, until a miracle walked in on 4 tiny paws. Hope was a word that Sarah hadn't used in a long time. 6 months ago, her world had shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces when her son, Noah, was diagnosed with a rare condition, infant paralysis. Doctors explained it gently, but the truth hit like a storm. Noah would never crawl, never walk, maybe never even move on his own. The walls of Sarah's house had closed in after that. Silent days, sleepless nights, a lullaby of machines, heart monitors, breathing aids, replaced the music that once filled their home. Still, every morning, Sarah carried Noah to the sunniest corner of their small living room, placed him in his special bassinet, and whispered, "Today is another day, little man." Most days nothing changed, but Sarah never stopped whispering, because sometimes miracles don't crash into your life. Sometimes they tiptoe in. And one day, that miracle arrived, wrapped in fur, wagging a hopeful tail. Started with a knock at the door. Sarah wasn't expecting anyone. She wiped her hands hastily on her jeans, heart thudding, as she peeked through the window. Standing there was her neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, a kindly woman with a soft smile and even softer voice. In her arms, wriggling excitedly, was a tiny golden retriever puppy. "I know you've had a hard year," Mrs. Henderson said, her voice trembling slightly. "And I just thought, maybe Noah could use a friend." Sarah hesitated. Puppy? In a house filled with delicate machines and constant fear? But then she looked at Noah, lying in his bassinet, eyes wide and glassy, staring at a world he couldn't touch, and her heart cracked a little more. Maybe what they needed wasn't more caution. Maybe they needed something brave. Sarah took the puppy into her arms. Warm, wiggly, full of life. The puppy immediately licked her chin with a tiny pink tongue, making Sarah laugh for the first time in what felt like forever. Noah's eyes shifted toward the sound, the first voluntary movement Sarah had seen in weeks. Hope, fragile and trembling, flared inside her chest. They named him Buddy. That first day, Buddy was a whirlwind of clumsy joy. He explored every inch of their small living room, sniffed every corner, and finally flopped beside Noah's bassinet, tail thumping against the carpet. Noah watched, fascinated. His eyes followed Buddy's every move, blinking slowly, like waking up from a long gray dream. Sarah sat nearby, covering her mouth with her hands to stifle her sobs. It was just a puppy, just a wagging tail, just a tiny spark of life. But sometimes that's all it takes. Over the next few days, something incredible happened. Buddy became Noah's shadow. He would sit beside the bassinet for hours, ears perked, watching Noah's every breath. Whenever Noah whimpered, Buddy would whine softly, nuzzling against the bassinet legs. When Sarah placed a small stuffed toy near Noah, Buddy would gently nose it closer to the baby's hand, as if saying, "Here, little Buddy, try." At first, Sarah thought it was just coincidence. Animals had instincts, right? But it wasn't just instinct. It was devotion. One afternoon, after Noah had finally dozed off, Sarah stepped into the kitchen for a moment to refill his feeding tube. Buddy stayed behind, his head resting on the edge of the bassinet. As Sarah returned, she caught a glimpse of something that made her stop in her tracks, heart hammering. Buddy was licking Noah's tiny, paralyzed hand, and Noah's fingers twitched. Sarah dropped the feeding tube, hands flying to her mouth. It was a barely there motion, just the smallest flutter. But it was real. It was movement. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she stumbled forward, reaching for her son's tiny hand. It was still again, but the spark had been lit. For the first time in 6 months, Noah had responded to the world around him. Thanks to a puppy's simple, unstoppable love. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat by Noah's side, one hand gently resting over his tiny body, the other absent-mindedly stroking Buddy's soft fur. Her mind spun with possibilities. Had it really happened? Could it happen again? Was it the beginning of something impossible? Buddy curled closer to the bassinet, eyes half closed but always watching. It wasn't science. It wasn't medicine. It was something ancient and pure, a language older than words. A bond formed not of blood, but of need, of kindness, of hope. Sarah whispered into the darkness, tears wetting her cheeks. "Don't leave him, Buddy. Please, be his miracle." Buddy's tail gave a sleepy thump against the floorboards, a quiet promise. In the darkness of that small house, a new battle had begun. Not against disease, not against fate, but against despair. One tiny baby, one brave puppy, and one mother who refused to stop believing. The world hadn't changed overnight, but a spark had been lit. And sometimes all it takes is one spark to start a wildfire. The morning after Noah's tiny movement, Sarah awoke in her armchair, stiff and aching. The soft whir of the machines hummed steadily in the background. Buddy was curled in a tight ball beside the bassinet, his nose almost touching Noah's little hand. For a moment, Sarah wondered if it had all been a dream. Had Noah really moved? Was it just a reflex? A coincidence? Her mind was a battlefield of hope and fear. She pushed herself up slowly and crossed the room. Noah's eyes fluttered open, sleepy, dazed, but clear. Buddy thumped his tail weakly against the floor in greeting. Sarah smiled through the lump in her throat. "Good morning, little warriors," she whispered. She placed a small rattle in Noah's hand, the one he had ignored 100 times before. And then she waited. Buddy sat upright, ears perked, watching closely. Seconds passed, then minutes. Just when Sarah was about to give up, Buddy gently nudged Noah's hand with his wet nose. And this time, the rattle shifted slightly in Noah's tiny fingers. Sarah gasped, dropping to her knees beside the bassinet. It wasn't just a twitch this time. It was intentional. It was real. Noah had responded. Sarah burst into tears. Not the broken sobs of grief she had known for months, but the wild, gasping tears of a mother watching a miracle unfold. Buddy barked softly, just once, and wagged his tail furiously, as if he understood the importance of the moment. Sarah scooped him up, hugging him tightly. "You're doing it, Buddy. You're helping him." The weeks that followed were filled with small miracles. Each day, Sarah created little games between Noah and Buddy. She would place a soft ball on Noah's lap and encourage Buddy to paw at it. Sometimes Noah would react, sometimes he wouldn't. But every day, Buddy was there, patient, persistent, and full of joy. Slowly, Noah's fingers became stronger. He learned to close his hand, first around the ball, then around Sarah's finger. Tiny steps, tiny victories, each one celebrated with laughter, tears, and Buddy's enthusiastic tail wags. One afternoon, something extraordinary happened. Sarah placed Noah on a soft playmat, surrounding him with cushions. Buddy sat beside him, eyes shining with excitement. Sarah rolled the ball a little farther away than usual. "Come on, Noah," she encouraged gently. "Try to reach it." Buddy barked softly and nudged Noah's side. A playful, encouraging gesture. Noah stared at the ball for a long moment. Then, with immense effort, he shifted his tiny arm forward and nudged the ball back toward Buddy. Sarah gasped. It wasn't just movement. It was play. It was connection. It was life. From that day on, their bond grew even stronger. Buddy became Noah's protector, his motivator, his best friend. Sarah would often find them together, Noah giggling as Buddy licked his cheeks, or Buddy lying still, letting Noah rest his tiny hand on his back. In a world that had once been filled with silence and sadness, there was now laughter. There was hope. There was healing. Sarah started documenting their journey. Short videos, pictures, anything that captured the miracles happening before her eyes. She wanted to remember every moment, every small triumph. She posted a short clip online, Noah moving his fingers around Buddy's fur, giggling with pure delight. The video exploded. Thousands of people watched, cried, and celebrated with them. Messages poured in from around the world. Stories of hope, of healing, of impossible recoveries. People called Noah and Buddy a miracle team. Sarah realized their story wasn't just changing her life. It was touching the lives of strangers, too. One evening, as Sarah tucked Noah into his crib, she kissed his forehead gently. "You're going to change the world, little man," she whispered. Buddy, as if understanding, placed a protective paw over Noah's tiny foot and let out a content sigh. Outside, the stars glittered silently over their little house, a universe of endless possibilities stretching far beyond their once broken walls. Sarah realized something beautiful. Miracles aren't always loud. Sometimes they are quiet, messy, and small. Sometimes they come in the form of a wriggly little puppy who refuses to give up. And sometimes that's all it takes to wake up a sleeping world. Buddy was more than a companion now. He was Noah's light, his laughter, his secret strength. And it was becoming clear that this bond wasn't just emotional. Something deep inside Noah's fragile body was awakening. The morning began like any other. Sarah brewed weak coffee while Buddy guarded Noah's crib, ever faithful. But today was different. Today, Noah's arms didn't just twitch. Today, they reached. Sarah almost dropped her mug when she saw it. Noah, lying there on his soft blue blanket, stretched out both arms toward Buddy, fingers splaying awkwardly but purposefully. Buddy immediately responded, crawling closer and nuzzling Noah's hands with his snout. It was the first time Noah had ever moved his arms without being prompted. Sarah's heart felt like it would explode. She ran to them, kneeling, crying, laughing all at once. "You're doing it, baby boy. You're doing it." Buddy barked joyfully, bouncing around Noah's playmat, causing Noah to giggle uncontrollably. Sarah pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. That sound, Noah's uncontrollable laughter, was more beautiful than any symphony. From that moment on, everything changed. Sarah designed a new routine: morning cuddle time with Buddy, play sessions with brightly colored toys, gentle, supervised exercises where Buddy encouraged movement by pushing softballs or rolling over beside Noah. The results were undeniable. Noah's arms grew stronger. His wrists gained flexibility. His fingers, once limp and lifeless, now curled instinctively around Buddy's fur. Sarah recorded every moment, every milestone. She sent updates to Noah's doctors, who were stunned. Movement, voluntary grip, response to stimuli? They double-checked the diagnosis. But there was no mistake. Buddy had awakened something science couldn't fully explain. One afternoon, Sarah decided to be brave. She set Noah carefully onto a large, supportive play pillow on the floor, a safe environment where he could attempt something new. Buddy sat a few inches away, holding one of Noah's favorite toys in his mouth, a soft, squeaky giraffe. Sarah watched, holding her breath. Buddy let out a playful bark, wiggling the toy enticingly. Noah's eyes locked onto it. Slowly, painfully, with trembling effort, Noah pushed himself slightly upward using his elbows. It was ungraceful. It was weak, but it was crawling. Sarah screamed, startling Buddy and making Noah giggle. She scrambled for her phone, filming as Noah dragged himself a few inches across the mat toward Buddy. Every muscle in Noah's tiny body worked overtime, but his determination burned brighter than any obstacle. Buddy dropped the toy and barked encouragingly, his entire body wagging with excitement. Noah gave one final grunt and collapsed happily into Buddy's fur. Sarah's sobs filled the room, loud, messy, joyful. Her baby was crawling. Word of Noah and Buddy's miracle continued to spread. Local news stations picked up their story. Then regional outlets. Then a national morning show invited Sarah for an interview. They wanted to meet the miracle baby and his hero dog. Sarah was terrified. She wasn't a public speaker. She was just a mom who had refused to give up. But Buddy's wagging tail and Noah's shy smile gave her courage. On the day of the interview, Sarah dressed Noah in his softest blue onesie and clipped a matching blue ribbon onto Buddy's collar. They sat together under the bright lights, nervous but ready. The interviewer leaned forward, smiling warmly. "Sarah," she said, "when did you first realize that this puppy might be the key to your son's recovery?" Sarah's throat tightened with emotion. She squeezed Noah's tiny hand, smiled at Buddy's eager face, and whispered, "The moment I saw love in his eyes." The studio audience wept. Viewers around the country wept. Noah and Buddy became symbols of hope in a world hungry for it. After the interview aired, something amazing happened. Letters poured in from families around the world. Parents of disabled children wrote about their struggles, their loneliness, their desperate hope. Veterans with service animals shared stories of how loyal companions had helped them recover from devastating wounds. Children drew pictures of Noah and Buddy, two heroes who had fought the darkness and won. Sarah cried over every letter. They weren't alone anymore. Their little miracle was now inspiring miracles everywhere. Weeks passed, and Noah continued to improve. Sarah worked closely with a pediatric physical therapist, incorporating Buddy into every session. Noah reached for balls. He hugged Buddy tightly with both arms. He even began to babble happily whenever Buddy barked. Their once silent home was now filled with the beautiful, chaotic music of healing. One quiet evening, after another successful therapy session, Sarah sat in the living room, cradling Noah in her lap. Buddy lay sprawled across her feet, snoring softly. The sunset bathed the room in warm gold. Sarah kissed Noah's forehead and whispered, "You're our miracle, my sweet boy." As if in answer, Noah's tiny hand rose up and patted Buddy's head gently. Buddy opened one eye, wagged his tail once, and fell back asleep. And Sarah smiled, knowing that somehow, against every odd, every diagnosis, every shattered dream, they had found their way back to the light. The seasons changed gently around their small world. Leaves fell, snowflakes danced, and spring blossoms bloomed. But inside that modest home, an even greater transformation was happening. Noah was no longer the fragile, silent baby Sarah had once feared would never move. Thanks to Buddy's tireless encouragement and Noah's own fierce spirit, he was growing stronger every day. Now, at 10 months old, Noah could sit up with minimal support, hold his toys proudly, and even mimic simple sounds. His giggle had become the sweetest song in the house. One sunny afternoon, Sarah sat on the porch, Noah bundled warmly in her lap, while Buddy snoozed lazily at their feet. She looked out across the open field behind their home, a place she had once avoided, too full of painful memories and dreams that had felt impossible. But now it was a canvas for new dreams. Sarah whispered to Noah, "One day, you'll run across that field, and Buddy will chase you, barking all the way." Buddy's ear twitched at the mention of his name, and Noah giggled. It sounded ridiculous, almost impossible. But then again, so had every miracle before. Sarah tightened her arms around Noah. Hope was no longer a distant stranger. It lived here, in their hearts, stubborn and bright. The therapy sessions became more intense. Sarah created obstacle courses using soft pillows and toys, encouraging Noah to stretch, reach, and move. Buddy remained the loyal coach, nudging Noah with his nose, rolling balls just out of reach, and celebrating every tiny success with joyful barks. Some days were hard. There were moments when Noah cried in frustration, his small body refusing to cooperate. There were days Sarah collapsed into bed, exhausted and unsure if they were making real progress. But then Buddy would curl up beside Noah, licking away his tears. And Sarah would remember, progress wasn't a straight line. Healing wasn't perfect. Love was messy and hard and worth every second. As Noah's first birthday approached, Sarah decided to host a small celebration. Nothing grand, just a few friends, family, and neighbors who had cheered for Noah and Buddy every step of the way. She decorated the living room with blue and gold balloons, set out simple snacks, and placed Noah's favorite toys all around. Buddy wore a bow tie, looking proud and excited. The guests arrived, filling the house with laughter and love. Everyone took turns holding Noah, marveling at how much he had grown. He's so strong. Look at that grip. And that smile. He's unstoppable. Sarah beamed with pride. But the real surprise came when Sarah placed Noah on the soft playmat, and Buddy rolled a ball toward him. Noah's face lit up with determination. He leaned forward, shifting his weight onto his hands and knees, a position he had struggled with for months. The room fell silent. Noah rocked back and forth uncertainly. Then, with a shaky but determined movement, he crawled toward Buddy, chasing the ball. The room erupted in cheers and tears. Cameras flashed. Laughter and sobs mingled. Sarah dropped to her knees, laughing and crying, calling Noah's name over and over. Buddy barked joyfully, running circles around them, tail wagging so hard it thumped the floor like a drum. In that moment, Noah wasn't a sick child. He wasn't broken. He was a boy chasing his dreams. And Buddy was right there beside him, every step of the way. News of Noah's birthday miracle traveled fast. More media outlets covered their story. Charity organizations reached out, offering therapy scholarships and support. Sarah was overwhelmed, but grateful. She realized something important. Their story wasn't just about survival. It was about fighting for the impossible. It was about refusing to let fear win. It was about love, raw, fierce, and healing. In the months that followed, Noah continued to defy every limit. He learned to pull himself to standing, using the coffee table for support. He babbled words that only Sarah and Buddy could understand. And one crisp autumn afternoon, as Sarah stood by the kitchen window washing dishes, she heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Small, unsteady, but real. She turned around, heart hammering. And there he was, Noah, tiny, determined, and upright, taking his first wobbly steps toward Buddy, arms outstretched, giggling wildly. Buddy barked in encouragement, circling him protectively. Sarah sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her baby, the baby they said might never move, never walk, never live a normal life, was walking. From that day forward, there was no stopping them. Sarah, Noah, and Buddy, a team forged in heartbreak, love, and miracles. They faced the world together, at therapy sessions, at community events, at playgrounds filled with the laughter of children once thought lost to silence. Noah became a symbol of resilience. Buddy became a legend. And Sarah? She became a storyteller, sharing their journey with others who needed hope. They had faced darkness and chosen light. They had faced despair and chosen love. Because sometimes, miracles aren't found in medicine or machines. Sometimes, miracles are found in the soft, insistent wag of a puppy's tail, in the tiny, trembling hand of a child who refuses to give up, in the heart of a mother who dares to dream, even when the world tells her not to. And sometimes, Sometimes the smallest steps become the greatest victories. Sometimes the smallest hearts teach us the biggest lessons. Sparkling heart, thank you for joining us on Noah and Buddy's incredible journey. A story of hope, love, and miracles against all odds. If this touched your heart even a little, please don't forget to like Speech Balloon Comment Pen and share Loudspeaker the story with others who need a little light today. And if you believe in the power of love, family, and second chances, make sure to subscribe for more inspiring stories just like this. Remember, every little act of kindness creates ripples of miracles. Glowing star, we can't wait to see you in the next chapter.